Hello everyone, and welcome to Season 2 of Workers and Resources, Soviet Republic. First of all, I would like to thank you for your patience. I've been absent for some time, mostly thanks to losing my voice after a short illness. It is back now, but after not doing anything for a while, it's kind of hard to just jump back into things. Anyways, let's talk about this new season. As you can see, I will be using a pre-made map this time around, called Taiga. The creator, Mosul, has made a few different versions available on the Steam Workshop, and I just went with the default one. I was tempted to use the one with less resources, but the terrain will be hard enough to overcome as it is. As for the difficulty, these are the settings that I'll be using. Basically, everything will be set to the hardest possible setting, except for 3 of them: water, seasons, and nighttime. The last one is obvious. I would like to keep the series watchable on YouTube if possible. Whenever I feel like doing one of those time-lapse/showcase videos of the Republic, I will try to include some scenes during night, but the main series will be all set during daytime. I hope that makes sense. As for the other 2, I know they will be controversial, but here's my short explanation. Water is turned off because it just isn't fun for me. A couple thousand workers require so much infrastructure that it quickly becomes overwhelming. And the thing is, I would be perfectly happy with super complex systems, but they are way too finicky and hard to retrofit. As for seasons, it is mostly because of 2 things: pacing, and preserving my sanity. You might remember the last series, there were moments where nothing much happened. Those were mostly during winter. Road traffic crawls to a halt, and the constant snow glare make planning things rather hard to see, since the grid blends into the sea of white. These are just short summaries of my reasons. I hope to get into it deeper during the episode. As for the new realistic mode, that is definitely how we will deal with things. If you are not familiar with this new addition to the game, it is basically the old Cosmonaut Challenge, only fully baked into the game. I can no longer get rid of small mistakes by breaking the rules every once in a while. Not being able to use quick buy is now an integral part of the gameplay. Thankfully, the developers made some changes to how construction works, so some of the old headaches are no longer a problem, like building power poles or pipes in separate sections. Anyways, that's enough preamble. I think it's time we jumped into the game proper, and got things rolling. In a previous community post, I asked you guys how I should deal with the customs houses, since they are still using the old system of only allowing one vehicle to move at a time. While the winner of that poll was the modded route, this map comes with 2 of them right next to each other at this particular crossing, so I decided to wait for the developer's solution to this issue. Plus we will move on to using trains eventually, so might as well just suffer through these early days. And since we have 2 of them, I thought a roundabout would be a good way to split the traffic between them. Also, as you can see, I decided to go for the 4-lane highway approach right from the start. I'm sure most of you will be happy to see it. These early days will be a bit easy, since we have this big empty field to work on, but we will move on to much harder terrain soon after, and that should spice things up. That ramp leading up into the mountains seems like the logical place to end the road for now. And yeah, I will try to keep nodes to a minimum. I don't think there's a gameplay advantage to it, I just prefer it this way. I mean, it can be useful when building long roads. Resource deliveries can drop things off closer to the source. If there were multiple sections, then drop-offs would have to make longer and longer trips after every finished stretch. Now, here's how we will be making our money at the beginning. Crude oil. There is a very convenient patch of the stuff near the border. We won't be making bank, mind you. Selling unrefined oil is chump change compared to selling fuel and bitumen. Still, it should give us a bit of pocket money until we get things up and running. As I've said in the intro, there are different versions available of this map in the workshop. And this oil field is still present on the one with less resources. The only version that doesn't have it is the one labeled hardcore, and as I've said, the terrain will be obstacle enough. Thank you very much. There was enough for 6 pump jacks at 50% efficiency each. Not much, but it will do. Merging them into 2 lines will be perfect, since the big storage tank has 2 inlets. Anyways, while I'm busy building this, let me try to explain why I won't be using water. As I've said, the water system becomes overwhelming very quickly. Satisfying the needs of only a couple thousand workers, and their families, requires so much planning and building, that it completely overshadows the other systems. If we had buildings that could create enough drinking water for entire cities, without requiring a Gordian knot worth of piping under said city, then I would be happy to use the system. The other problem is retrofitting. I might be able to lay out a semi-decent water distribution network the first time around, with neatly arranged parallel pipes. But the city will expand, it will require new pipes to be laid down, and integrating these new additions into a system that was barely doable to begin with, is just a recipe for frustration. And completely rebuilding it to keep things neat and organized is not an option, unless you want to risk people leaving en masse, since they won't have water while things are rebuilding. Sure, there are options to do it with vehicles, but as things scale up, that becomes less of an option, and more of an unmanageable traffic chaos waiting to happen. This isn't Factorio, where you click, and things get built instantly. Changing things around takes time, and these systems are way too sensitive for long outages. Plus it takes too long to do it in the first place. Remember the old Republic? If I planned out the entirety of Mikhailovia in one go, and told the construction yards in Adomsky and Lukovo to do it, they would build the whole place in an episode or two. But the water and sewage? That alone would take more than twice that to get done. So that's my reason for not using water. Takes too long, gets too hard to keep things organized too quickly, and retrofitting old systems to accommodate new additions is rarely doable without just giving up keeping things neat and tidy, and creating an unseemly mess underground. Now, let's talk about seasons. 2 things keep me from using it again. One is the constant snow glare during winter. I wouldn't mind things slowing down if I could spend time planning out new areas. But the fact that the grid lines get lost among the sea of white is an issue for me. As for traffic, that's the lesser of my problems. I wouldn't mind the vehicles slowing down, if it was handled a bit better. The problem is that roads immediately become snowed in as soon as it starts falling again. I suggested on the official Discord a couple times that snowplows should spread salt or gravel over the roads to prevent this, basically giving clean roads some temporary resistance to snow accumulation. If snowplows would only need to go over roads maybe once a month, that would be good in my book, but right now we could have a solitary plow driving along a very long stretch of road, and as soon as a single snowflake falls on it, the entire work is undone. As for farming, you might remember that the only thing we never had an issue with was food. It doesn't really matter if we can work the fields all year round or not, if it's big enough, it will satisfy a lot of people's needs. The only thing I will miss is the heating system. That one I actually did like, but I will gladly give it up for the sake of not having to deal with the other frustrations. If the developers decide to give the snowplows the ability to keep the roads clean for longer, then I might consider re-enabling the system, but as of right now, it's too bad against one good. Well, I've rambled enough. I hope you understand my reasoning for not using these 2 systems. And please don't let it dissuade you from using them yourself. If you do like these systems, and do get enjoyment out of them, then who am I to stop you? Everyone has different tastes. At least the oil field got done in the meantime. In the beginning we will sell the crude oil, but hopefully we can start refining it soon. I don't think I'll use it for the gas power plant this time round. It will all go towards making fuel and bitumen. Early power will be coming from coal, until we can start using nuclear power. In hindsight, it might have been a better idea to build the temporary construction yard first, and let it upgrade the roads while I fiddled with the oil field. Oh well, we'll get some road work done either way, so not a big loss. As I've said, this construction yard is temporary for obvious reasons. I won't even bother building a concrete and asphalt plant. These free parking lots will still come in handy from time to time. They will be super useful when we need to do some terrain work in remote areas quickly. You might have noticed that I only placed down 6 of them, even though we have an allowance for 7. It will be made clear why soon. We will of course need 1 or 2 distribution centers. At the beginning it will be for getting fuel for the gas station. Might as well get the best truck currently available. And here it comes. The first vehicle in our new republic. Before I forget, Let's add the customs houses to the construction offices. Now comes the 7th office. This is a bit further into the mainland, since this is where I will house our bulldozers. I would like to build our first city on that neat little island, and it requires some groundwork to be done on it before it's ready for prime time. Unfortunately, the ones near the border cannot reach this far. The overall vehicle ratios are going to be more or less the same we used in Season 1. And since we're dealing with very limited space here at the start, I decided to give the open hull trucks double duty. I usually have a fleet of dedicated trucks to move the slower machines around, but this time, they will deal with the resource deliveries as well. This means that 3 of these offices will have 2 open hull trucks each, and the remaining spaces will be filled up with 2 bulldozers, 2 excavators, and the 2 we need to make asphalt roads. I will also make sure to tell the office that houses the excavators to not bother going to the road construction sites. I'd prefer if my bulldozers took care of those, since they are faster. The remaining offices are pretty straightforward. One is for dumpers, another for buses, then there are the concrete mixers, and the last one will have 2 covered hull trucks and 2 road cranes. And let's not forget to tell the tanker truck to start filling up the gas station. And you know what? Might as well buy a second one, just in case. They are already busy with the oil field, but might as well start working on the roads too. We only need to make sure to keep one lane open for them to move around, the rest are ready to be upgraded. Let's make sure we get power as soon as possible, so I gave the power poles and the substation high priority. I also decided to set the pump jacks themselves to the lowest priority. No point having them ready to go if the pipes and the storage tank isn't done. Doesn't really make a difference, just something I decided to try. We will of course need a firehouse. It will use foreign labor at the start, but hopefully we can start using domestic workers in a couple episodes. Definitely a high priority for our construction offices. This is the island I want to use for our first city. It seemed like the most obvious place for it. It is a bit far from the border, but once the roads are upgraded, it shouldn't be a problem. We just need to wait for our bulldozers to get fuel, and then we can start preparing the terrain. I also decided to give the road constructions high priority. The sooner we get it done, the better we're off in the long run. Alright, our bulldozers are back home. Time to put them to work on the island. I decided to keep the 2-level structure we had by default. The northern side will be higher up, while the southern side will be closer to the water. Might be able to squeeze in a couple beaches in the future. Leveling out the plateau was bad enough, doing the entire island would have required the force of a fully built-out construction yard. I think we can make this western side have a gentle slope going down to the lower level, and keep the steep cliffside along the rest of the island. I think a gentle slope going down at the other end makes sense. We can have the double highway go through the city on the top, and have single road streets at the bottom. The power lines are done already. It's a slow start, but we're getting there. For this one time I decided to allow the excavators to go to the construction sites on their own. They only need to go to the firehouse anyway, so it wasn't a big trip. The island looks good, I think. Sure, it is pretty barren, since the bulldozers got rid of the trees, but once it's all built up, it should be a sight to behold. Let's see which bridge we will be using. My favorite is still this arched viaduct style, but let's see how the others would look. This one is also pretty neat, but kind of wish the size of the arches would scale with the length. As for the concrete and prefab ones, they are way too bland. Great for short overpasses, but for proper bridges, I don't think they fit. The brick one is also better for going over short distances. Not really a fan of them being this long. I was ready to go with the old favorite, but then I saw that this one had a distance that only had 3 arches on top. I think that fits perfectly. As I've said, the 4-lane highway will go through the city on the top. The lower level will have one main street going through it, and I will include side streets as needed. I was ready to bring down the other side of the river to the same level as the island, but then I started counting the contour lines, and realized that 2 bulldozers are not enough for this job. I think it will be okay if the eastern bridge leaving the city is a bit sloped. Yeah, it's not too bad, I'll allow it. These slopes are not final. I will most likely change them around as the city develops, but they are good for now. At least I know what I had in mind later. At first, this is as far as I wanted to bring out the roads. I really want to make a proper highway interchange built, but that will require access to our excavators to raise the terrain. Oh, I forgot to add these roads to the offices. They are too busy dealing with the oil field, and had no room in their lists to assign themselves. But doing it manually will do the trick. When I saw my diggers parked, I decided to give it a try. Well, so much for that. Oh well, I'll have my moment one day. And the roads are finally began to be upgraded. The sooner we start using proper roads the better. Since the firehouse is so close to being done, it was time to place down a free road depot. We needed to buy our microbuses, that will keep it staffed with foreign workers until we have our own. Any second now. And that's that. 4 of these little guys will be enough to keep the firehouse going until further notice. The only thing left is to buy the first fire engine. Adding these roads with the assignment tool will allow excavators to work on them. It's fine, they had nothing better to do anyways. Speaking of, I'll just connect these up with a simple T-junction. I'll deal with it later, just need to make sure not to upgrade it. How about we start placing the first couple rail tracks? Don't get too excited, we are nowhere near the point where we can start building them, but I think it makes sense to plan them out in advance, so we don't accidentally block them in. I intend to take full advantage of this double border setup we have here. Good thing I remembered to leave enough room for full-length trains. I'm not sure I'll use the full-length ones, but I want to make sure we can at least accommodate the shorter 150 meters long trains. Plus, this is more of a temporary reminder not to block in the rail connections. I will definitely need to build a bigger train yard for queuing before I finalize the tracks around here. Yeah, definitely not the final arrangement. It might be best if we don't allow these bridges to be built just yet. Let's finish the oil field first and have some money coming in, before we do anything drastic. With the necessary roads upgraded to gravel, we can go ahead and do the same for the rest. This will also force everyone to use the new paths, so things should start speeding up a little bit from now on. I might need to change the road layout a little bit in the future, so they are at least a little more symmetrical. We have a bit of time before the episode ends, so how about we at least start planning the town? Obviously, we cannot go without a small shopping center. I think I will have 2 cultural buildings. 1 cinema, and an arts gallery. That little intersection was an okay place to put it, but maybe a small side street wouldn't hurt either. Well, I think we can make this a bit more parallel before committing to anything. These 2 sports centers will serve us well. And while that firehouse at the oil field should be able to reach, I think it's best to have a local one too. Not to mention a hospital. Obviously we will need a kindergarten, and might as well go for the old favorite we got from the workshop. And with education set to complex, we better have a school and a university as well. Since this won't be a very big city, I think a small version of the tech uni will do. It's been a while, so my first attempt at a footpath network will be a bit interesting. Yeah, we can do better. I think that makes more sense. Now, normally I wouldn't mind having pedestrians cross a busy road, but this is a 4-lane thoroughfare. An elevated crossing makes more sense, I think. People should be able to go for the footpath since it's the faster alternative, but if they still use the road, I'll just place some signs to stop them. I don't even know why I bothered to check walking distances here. We only have dirt paths right now, upgraded ones will have vastly increased ranges. We will of course need the 3 crime and justice buildings. The police station, the courthouse, and the prison. That last one I will deal with later. I still haven't decided if I'll use the vanilla or one from the workshop. I think that's it for now. I'll need to upgrade the roads first anyway, so it will be an episode or 2 before anything gets built in the city proper. Speaking of upgrading roads, we will need to deal with the one going to the oil storage and the fire station at the very least, so might as well get those done. This of course interrupts the route of our microbuses, so let's just send them home, so they don't take up space in the customs house. And that's pretty much all we have time for. As I've said, these episodes will be about 30-minute long this time around. As for what to expect in episode 2, I would very much like to start up the oil extraction, and start selling it as soon as possible. I would rest easier knowing that we have at least a trickle of money coming into our coffers. Also, while I am adamant about not using water in this season, I am a little more suggestible on the seasons side of things. If my reasons for not using it are not satisfactory, let me know in the comments, and I will weigh your concerns on the matter. Other than that, I'm hoping to have some of these roads paved by the end of the next episode, so we can lay down the proper traffic directions for each side of the highway. Then there are the bridges. They are relatively short ones, so it shouldn't take too long to deal with them. Then there's the question of our first construction yard. I don't have a place picked out just yet, but I do know that it will not use helicopters. They are not available just yet, plus they are bloody expensive. As for how I will structure our industries, I haven't decided how to organize things. In the past, I was trying to have as many things produced locally as I could. This time, I might try to have more specialized areas, and ship the different products around a bit more. That will require quite a bit of train traffic, so I will need to think that one through. Anyways, thank you for watching. If you liked the video, then leaving a like and subscribing to the channel just might motivate me to make more. If you are more in the donating mood, you can find a link to my Ko-fi page in the description, where you can buy me a glass of water. I don't really drink coffee. Thank you for your support, and until next time, I will see you later.